أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah, how's everyone feeling? I'm sure very cold. So we're blessed that Allah has brought us again here today, inshallah, to remember the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the life and the lessons of the Prophet, the Seerah Nabawiyah. But before we start, inshallah, we just want to correct our intentions why we are here. That we are here for the sake of Allah, for His pleasure, for His closeness. And to just close off any other sort of thoughts and whispers in the mind, and just to focus on what's been given and the talk that's going to be given. And to make sure that when we hear the talk, we're not thinking, oh yeah, that person would benefit from this talk. He or she would be more, this talk would be more beneficial for her. But rather take it for your own selves, right? Benefit from it by thinking that this talk is directly and directed at me. And also empty, as they mentioned, empty your cups. Yeah, that many people, we study elsewhere, we read other books and we go other places to learn the deen. But sometimes you can only take more knowledge on if you've removed that emptiness. And one of the great shuyukh, they mentioned that when he went to study with an awliya, Imam, forget his name now, but he's in Morocco, in Tatouan, and Mashish, Sheikh al-Mashish, and when the student went to see him, he goes, "Ya Sheikh, I've come here to study with you." And the teacher, he goes, "You've come with too much baggage. Go and remove it." So he thought he meant his luggage, so he went down and he dropped half of his belongings at home. And this mountain is humongous, is huge to climb. So he took like an hour climbing up again, and he went to the Sheikh and he goes, "Ya Sheikh, I've removed my luggage, can I now study with you?" And the Sheikh goes, "No, you've got still too much baggage." And so the student thought maybe he wants to live a life of zuhud and abstinence. So he went and he removed and left more belongings at home, till the point he had no belongings left. And the Sheikh still says to him, "What? You still have too much baggage." And he goes, "Sheikh, what do you mean? I've got nothing now." And he goes, "It's not the baggage that you brought with you, rather it's the knowledge that you think you know you have. It's the method in your mind that you think you know you have." He goes, "You need to remove all of that before you can study with me." And so it's the same lessons our teachers tell us, that whenever you go to a new place, even if you're learning the fiqh or wudu, and you've heard it a million times, imagine it's the first time you're hearing it. Yeah, and that will open you up, inshallah, to more details and to more knowledge, inshallah. And that will allow you to prosper in your deen. So inshallah, before we begin, we'll have a Quran recitation by Brother Daniel, inshallah, followed by a nasheed, inshallah. So we'll just call Brother Daniel.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ولا يزنون ومن يفعل ذلك يلقى أثاما يضاعف له العذاب يوم القيامة ويخلد فيه مهانا إلا من تاب وآمن وعمل عملا صالحا فأولئك يبدل الله سيئاتهم حسنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما. الله متابا والذين لا يشهدون الزور وإذا مروا باللغو مروا كراما والذين إذا ذكروا بآيات ربهم لم يخروا عليها صما وعميانا والذين يقولون ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرة أعين وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما صدق الله العظيم.
مدينة 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 मैं आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ मैं आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ मैं आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ मैं आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ हो आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ नबी के इश्क की शम्मा जला कर चल रहा हूँ हाँ नबी के इश्क की शम्मा जला कर चल रहा हूँ मैं आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ मैं आँखों में हरा गुंबद बसा कर चल रहा हूँ मैं उनकी याद सीने में सजा कर चल रहा हूँ
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah. So, as I was mentioning, inshallah, we are going to continue with the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today we're going to focus on 4 main lessons. And that's number 1, how our inner state should be. That many of us were concerned, or many of us are concerned about the outer appearance, which is nothing wrong. But the most important is the inner state. So how do we know what our inner state is? And number 2, where richness truly lies. Yeah, where richness truly lies. And number 3, remaining silent and stopping gossip. And the 4th thing we're going to learn today, which is going to be quite interesting, is when can you backbite? Right? When is it permissible to do ghiba? Something that is normally abhorrent and haram. There are cases where it is actually permissible. And so we're going to learn some of those exceptions today. So to start off, we were mentioning that in the last lesson, there was an individual called Abdul ibn Sulul, and he was a chief hypocrite of the hypocrites in Medina, meaning these are individuals on the outer were Muslim, but internally kafir. They were disbelievers in the Prophet ﷺ and Allah. And they will have the worst punishment in hell, worse than the disbelievers. Okay? And so he mentions, and it's mentioned in Seerah, where there was an argument that broke out between the Muhajirun, those that migrated from Makkah to Medina, and those that lived in Medina. And when this argument broke out, he made some very harsh comments. And he said, the Muhajirun have competed with us, meaning he himself is a person of Medina. The migrants have competed with us both in their quality and quantity. This is exactly like fattening your dog for it to come and eat you. So he's saying that we've helped these migrants and now they are trying to eat us. They're damaging us. Sounds very familiar, isn't it? It's the same sort of lines the BNP and these sort of right-wing government people use. Abdul Salul was saying the same thing many years ago in Medina, right? About the migrants, the muhajirun. He goes, by Allah, if we return to Medina, the honorable will expel the inferior. So he's saying that when we go back, we're going to expel these immigrants. And he goes, you Ansar, he's talking to the Ansar, have brought this upon yourselves, and you have allowed them to come into our land and given them your wealth. If only you withheld all of this, they would have forced to go back to their homes, back to their countries, right? So this dialogue is still prevalent now as it was back then. And so this word, the wording of what he has said about the immigrants and the migrants from Makkah gets around. And to the point that his son, he hears it. And he goes to the Prophet ﷺ and he mentions that this was said. And then he was called in, Abdul ibn Salul, he's called and he goes, is this what you have said? And he goes, no, by Allah, I've not said this. And he started to take oaths and qasams, like, no, I didn't say this. And so Allah then reveals a verse, and it's a chapter of the Quran, Surah Munafiqun. It's called the chapter of the hypocrites. And the first 11 verses, they come to show that what Abdul Salul, and it mentions what Abdul Salul even said. It references what he said. And so all the Muslims in Medina realized that he is someone that's not on the side of the Muslims, rather he's against them. And so now this was like an embarrassment. Because Abdul Salul, he was trying to, when the Prophet came to Medina, who was going to be the next leader in Medina? Who was meant to be the so-called ruler or king of Medina before the Prophet came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who knows? Abdul ibn Salul. It was meant to be him. So he was meant to be the leader of Medina. However, what happened? And he was a senior individual. He had a lot of respect. A lot of people followed him. But when the Prophet came, he lost his position. And because he lost that position, he always had an issue with the Prophet ﷺ and the message of Islam. And so he now has been embarrassed by the Quran. He's been basically revealed. You know that they say the cat's out the bag now. He's now been shown for what he truly is, a munafiq. And so he's looking for an opportunity now to just get revenge on the Prophet ﷺ. Now he's really being malicious in his attempts. And so we go to a story. And the lady Aisha radiallahu anha, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, she quotes this. She narrates this story. And so today we're going to be talking about the situation which is a slander of Aisha radiallahu anha, our mother. That she was slandered and mean and abhorrent things were said about her, which were untrue. And so the story starts off as the Prophet ﷺ, he goes out, there was like an expedition. And when the Prophet would go, he would take, obviously he had many wives, but he'd only take one wife with him to expedition. So what he would do, he would sort of get them to do this little, you can call it lots. So he'd get sticks of different sizes and then they would draw lots. And whoever had the longest stick would go with the Prophet ﷺ. So he was fair in the way he would deal with his wives. And so on that time, that situation, Aisha drew the lot. So she went with the Prophet ﷺ on this expedition. On their way back, it was a common thing that the Muslims, when they were back to Medina, they would only come into the city during the day or the morning, just so that the family members could meet. So it was night time, so they camped outside of Medina. And during this situation, the morning arose. Aisha radiallahu anha, she went to relieve herself, and she came back to her carriage. And the wives of the Prophet, they were always carried in a hawdaj, like it was, you got the riding the horse, and there was like a little tent that was put on top of the horse. You probably see it similarly, on in the English ancient times where queens were sat in certain sort of compartments and tents, and they were carried. And so she goes and she comes back, and when she comes back, she realizes her necklace has what? She can't find it. It's gone missing, right? And so she runs back to the place that she went, and she tries looking for it, and she looks and she looks. And the amazing thing is what? She is AKA the queen really of Medina. She's the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and she's one of the most beloved wives of the Prophet ﷺ. It's known that the Prophet had great love for Aisha radiallahu anha. And all she has is a small necklace. That is really, she's not riding with massive jewelry. She just has this one necklace. And it's such a quality of necklace that even when she gets off the horse, it just breaks, just her coming off. So you can imagine it wasn't some thick golden necklace of very high quality. Rather, it was a simple necklace. And this is how our mothers, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to live their lives. Even though the Prophet was a king, you can say, of Medina, and the Prophet of Allah, Rasulullah, him and his wives were simple. They used to live very simple lives. To the point that even if you look at when the Prophet ﷺ passes away, Aisha would cry when she would eat 2 meals in the day. Because, mashallah, wealth spread in Islam. And she goes, I lived with the Prophet ﷺ and I did not see in my whole life with him ever eat 2 meals to his fill. And forget, we're talking 3-4 meals, us lot. She's saying about the Prophet ﷺ, I've never seen him in his whole life eat 2 meals till his fill. I mean, he didn't barely have, what she was deeming as 2 meals, we would call starters. Yeah, we would call that starters. That's not a main meal for us, right? And this is how the Rasulullah led his life. And it wasn't because he didn't have money. He had money come in. But he would just give it out to the poor. As soon as money would enter his house, he would just go out and hand it to the poor and to the people that needed the money. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ led his life. And so it's a lesson for us that richness does not lie in wealth or money, but richness lies in your closeness to Allah. Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet ﷺ, maybe they didn't have the rich and the money and the food that we have, but they had what? They had the closeness to Allah. So that's one of the lessons that we learn, that what we call your value is not based on your account balance. The value you have isn't based on how much money you have. Rather, it's based on how your link is with Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. That is what your true value is. And so she realizes the caravan's gone, the horse is gone. And so what does she do? She goes to sleep. This is what having tawakkul in Allah. She knows they'll come back for her. So she finds a shaded tree and she falls asleep. And many hours later, an individual, Safwan, he comes past. And he actually fell asleep and he got late. So he missed the rest of the army. So he comes and he sees her. And this is before, and he recognizes who she is. Because the verse of the hijab, wearing the hijab for the wives of the Prophet would actually wear niqab. It was a unique ruling for them. So they were always fully covered. But before that, there was no ruling. So he recognized her face and he realized, oh, this is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. What was she doing here? And so he approached her and then he realized that she's been left behind. So what he did, he got the camel, he lowered the camel, and he didn't even talk to her. She narrates, she goes, he didn't even talk to me. Rather, he indicated that I climbed the camel. And he looked away when I climbed the camel. Because obviously when you climb the camel, so he had adab and manners in the way he treated her. Then he took the camel, he goes, not one word was said to her. And he took her all the way to what? To Medina. And when he entered Medina, who was there? Abdul ibn Sulul. And the chief hypocrite. And what do you think he did? He rubbed his hands and he thought, okay, I can now damage the family of the Prophet. And he started to what? Spread this filth, this abhorrent gossip. And this is what? Another lesson for us. Number one is that maybe he was Muslim on the outward, but inwardly he was a disbeliever. Yeah, and our teachers say, if you truly want to know how your inward is, we may think, okay, maybe we're not hypocrites. Obviously, inshallah, we're not. But if you truly want to know what your inner state is, they say, look at how you are when you're alone. When you're alone, look at what you do when you're alone. Are you A, doing haram? Are you B, just doing permitted things, just not doing anything? Or you see those people that are shaded at the throne of Allah, the ones that remember Allah and they cry. There's one group they mention. They go, the one who's alone and he remembers Allah and they go, not even like profusely crying. They go, he sheds a tear. Like just, you can push it out, right? That one little tear, he goes, just because that one tear, Allah, He will give His whole arsh to shade this individual. Imagine, you give Allah one drop Allah gives you His arsh to shade you on that day when there's no shade, except for the shade of Allah and His arsh, meaning the shade of the arsh. And so that's a lesson for us, how we when we are alone. Okay? And so the news now starts to spread. Unfortunately, Aisha radiallahu anha, our mother, when she gets to Medina, she falls ill with a fever. So now she goes to a house, and obviously she's ill, she's not going out, so she really becomes into a little bubble. She's not hearing the news that is spreading in Medina. And now after a while, the news gets so bad now that it goes, the hypocrites are spreading it. So it's not just Abdul Salul, he has a group of people who are also munafiq. And he tells them, and they start spreading it, till it even starts affecting some of the companions. Even some of the companions, they hear it, and they're like, oh. And then, one or two even, they spread it, between themselves. Okay? And so now, Aisha radiallahu anha, she gets better after many, many weeks. But there's something else that we need to learn here as well. That even, look, the companions, no doubt, they're after the prophets, they're the best generation of people. Okay? But they're still human, right? We know that the prophets cannot sin, but we have in our aqidah, we do believe that the companions, they can sin, but they're protected, right? But sometimes it can happen, even to the best. So the lesson is when we hear news, and it mentions this in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binabi'in fatabayyanu. That, oh people, if a troublemaker brings you news, check it first in case you're wrong. Yeah? And in today's time, fake news is so rampant. We live in a time where AI can create videos of you, meaning, let's say, Zachariah. If I fed his images of his face into an AI, I can tell the AI, make me a video of Zachariah stealing something. And it would make me a lifelike image. I can send it to his dad and get him in trouble. Yeah? But the point is, in today's time, it's even worse, right? That social media is the troublemaker. Like in the Quran verse maybe is referring to a person being a troublemaker. But the reality is social media in itself is a troublemaker. Why? Because 80% of the news sometimes on it is just false, made up. Yeah, the facts aren't checked. It's half-truths. Yeah, and especially in the times where now AI images are being made of people that are so real you can't tell between reality and fake. So now it's even more important that if you see something, verify it or remain quiet. Right? It's not for you to be like, oh, wicked, select, forward, tick, 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 forward. Right? That's spreading gossip. Yeah. Your job is this true? Verify it with someone. Right? Maybe phone Zachariah. Oh, Zachariah, I saw this image of you. Is this true? And he's like, oh no, that wasn't me. Right? You need to ask, verify. And if you can't verify, what should you do? Just remain silent. Right? Remain quiet. And so Aisha radiallahu anha, she now gets better and she leaves the house with a lady, and her name is Mistah. And Mistah was the mother of a companion called Uthman ibn Mistah. And this companion, unfortunately, as we said, he got involved in some of the news that was spreading. And so she was walking with Aisha radiallahu anha, and she trips the mother of Mistah. And she says, what? May Mistah be cursed. And Aisha's like, shocked. She goes, oh, woe be to you. Why are you cursing Mistah? He fought in Badr. And this is the unique thing about this Badri Sahaba. The 313 companions that fought in Badr, they were esteemed and renowned and famous amongst the other companions. Likewise, the angels that fought in Badr, they have a higher rank than the angels who did not attend Badr. Yeah, that even Angel Jibreel, she goes, Angel Jibreel, they say what to Prophet ﷺ, that the angels that fought in Badr, we too see them in a higher rank than the angels that didn't. So Aisha radiallahu anha is trying to defend Mistah. She's like, why are you saying such and such about Mistah when we know good of him? And then his mother goes, have you not heard the news that's spreading? She's like, no, what news? And they go, she mentions the news to Aisha radiallahu anha, and they go, one book mentions, she actually faints out of her innocence. I mean, this is our mother, an innocent believer, a pure believer of Allah. And for her to hear such slander, she can't even take it, that she faints. And then she goes home, and then she narrates this herself. She goes, I felt more sick than I did when I had the fever. That now I was even more in sickness than I was when I had the fever. And she even mentions that when the Prophet would visit her when she was ill, he was slightly aloof. Like he would just, talk to her a bit and not be like how he was his normal self, his happy self, his sort of engaging self. And so she felt something was off, but obviously she's ill, so she didn't inquire about it. But now she understood why the Prophet ﷺ was in that situation. And she goes back to the Prophet and she says what? And this is the wisdom of Aisha. They go, she was probably in her teenage years at this age. Because what would normal people do? They would go home and they would say to the, oh, do you think this happened? How dare you believe this of me? And, they get an argument. But rather she went home to her husband, the Prophet ﷺ, and she goes, do you give me permission to go to my parents? And the Prophet goes, yes, I'll give you. That's fine, you can go to your parents. Look at the wisdom of Aisha radiallahu anha. She went home just so she can talk to her parents. And her parents, Abu Bakr Siddiq and Ruman. Who are the two parents of the Aisha radiallahu anha? What are the names? Abu Bakr Siddiq and Ruman. What's the mother's name? Ruman, yeah? That there were two wise individuals, and then she wanted to talk to them. And this goes for the teenagers. That your parents, even though you may think they're old and grey-haired and maybe slightly chubby around the edges, yeah, but they are more wiser than you will ever be, yeah. They've lived longer and they've got more wisdom and knowledge about life and in engagements and in relationships than you do. So if you have any problems in life, you should always approach your parents first, okay? So, and this is what Aisha radiallahu anha did. She has that wisdom that I'm going to go to my parents and I'm going to talk to them first, rather than get into an argument with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so, one of the lessons we can learn here is what? Right? That if you look at what Aisha did with Mr., she didn't say, oh yeah, curse be. She didn't join in on the backbiting. Rather, she defended. And they go, if someone's honor, a Muslim's honor is being dishonored in front of you, as a Muslim, you should do two things. Number one, you should defend them. And that's what she did. She said what? He fought in Badr. So you should defend the honor of another Muslim if it's been dishonored in a gathering. And number two, if you can't do that, change the subject. Or find a way to get out of the gathering. Okay, this is what you should try. The minimum is remain silent. Yeah, the minimum is to remain silent. And so this brings us to the 5 situations where you can backbite. Okay? So what are the 5 situations? Who knows some of the times where you can backbite? Anyone? Zachariah? Yeah, if you, mashallah, yeah. So when you want to bring 2 people together, you can make up a lie. You can say, so let's say Abu Bakr and Sadiq had beef. I can go to Abu Bakr and be like, oh, Abu Bakr, Sadiq was inquiring about you. He's like really worried, how you doing? You haven't talked in a while. He's just asking about you. Just trying to make a link again between 2 people, mashallah. Anything else? Sisters? When could we backbite? No? Mashallah. Sisters don't backbite. Yeah, there's no exception here, yeah? Mashallah. So the first one is to redress the grievances of someone who is wronged to a ruler or a judge or authority. For example, you can go to a police station and be like, my neighbor, his name's Abdul, he robbed my house. Yeah, and he did this, he swore at me. And so you can, if it comes to like the judge, the ruler, you can mention that. Okay, because you can't be like, oh, someone swore at me, someone stole my car, who was it? Oh, sorry, I can't backbite. I can't tell you who he was, but someone did it. You have to mention details and tell. Or if you saw someone steal or you do something, you can then say, oh, this person did something bad. It was him. Number 2, to stop a wrongdoing by telling someone who can correct it. So what I just mentioned is similar to the first one. So you can mention to the police person or the head teacher, the head mistress, whoever, that so-and-so is doing this. Yeah, I've seen him do this. So you can do that. That's fine. Number 3, asking an Islamic scholar for a legal ruling. involving someone, though if their identity can be made anonymous, it is better. So let's say someone's having certain issues, maybe financial issues, marital issues, trading, whatever issues they're having, and you need to maybe mention their name and give details to an Islamic scholar so he can give you a fatwa or some ruling on it, then you can do that because you're trying to help the person here. So that's absolutely fine. But better is you give like anonymous. If you're able to not mention the name, that's better. Number 4, to warn a Muslim of evil, or if something is disadvantageous to them, if one's advice is sought in a matter of marriage, business relation, in trusting someone, in which case it's compulsory to advise. If it can be done without going into detail, such as saying this is not in your best interest, then this is better. So for example, someone comes and says, look, I want to use him as my plumber. I want to use him as my mechanic. You can say, no, don't use him, and that should be sufficient. But if he goes, oh, why is that? You can mention details. You can say, oh, look, he actually doesn't do a good job, or he messes these things up. So you can mention details just to protect someone else from getting into a problem. Or like I looked at Yusuf here, but builders or mechanics, anyone, traders, and especially also marriage. Someone says, you're giving someone away, like maybe you're a friend, and then someone's asking, okay, I want, this person, he's looking to get married. What do you think of him? You can say, oh no, he's got this bad habit, but he's also got this good habit. You can mention the truths about someone, yeah? So especially in marriage, when someone's asking, I want to marry so-and-so, what do you think of him? You can go full out. Yeah, you can mention how they are, because now you're going to help that person. If you hide the truth, and then he marries him, and then he realizes, oh, wait a minute, this he's a druggie, he's an abuser, he's doing all X, Y, Z, and no one told me, right? Then this is going to be your fault. So as a Muslim, you're allowed to clarify and explain things to prevent someone getting harmed. So that's in business relationships, marriage, etc. And then lastly, someone who openly does sin or oppression and is not concerned with hiding it. Right? So for example, you have political leaders, you have certain people in communities that are openly sinning. If you mention what they are doing, it's not backbiting. Okay? Because they're already doing it in the open. So there's nothing hidden. Okay? But once again, it's better to remain silent on other people's faults. Yeah? But if you ask, what is this, I want to vote for this leader, I want to work with him, then you can mention, oh, but I've seen him do these things in public, it's best that you don't. Yeah? So you can do this to protect, but the main benefit is what? You can only backbite if there's some benefit to someone of you backbiting. Okay? And you should only do it up to the benefit. No, now I've done a bit of backbiting, he's asked me about this person, I'm going to now talk about his whole family and his rishtadar and everyone that's linked to him, and I'm going to slay all of them because now I've got Islamic permission. No. Rather, you should only focus on that one thing that's been mentioned. That how is this person, I'm looking maybe my daughter to marry him, and then you can tell the truth. You can, quote unquote, do a bit of backbiting, yeah, but to a limit. And then number 6, to identify someone who's known by a certain nickname. So let's say someone's called Chubby or Skinny, right? That's his nickname, and there's many funky nicknames. You can say, oh, his name's Skinny, but and you can describe him. Oh no, it's not him, it's that guy. He's known by Skinny. And oh, him, Skinny, yeah, I know Skinny. Even though his name's Muhammad, but everyone knows him as Chubby or whatever, Chunks, whatnot, yeah, nowadays. Yeah, so so now we move on. So in the story of Aisha radiallahu anha, she realizes now the slander has spread. Okay, and she goes back to her parents' house and she asks her mother, is this the case? Are people spreading and saying these things about me? And her mother goes, yes. She basically confirms that these people are spreading lies about you. And now she narrates this. She goes, I cried all night till I couldn't sleep, and I cried all day till the point, she goes, I thought my liver would burst. And this is the innocence of Aisha radiallahu anha, that she's never heard of such things. Like, it's not even past her mind. Now people are talking about it. It's broken her. And then the Prophet, he calls his companions and he starts to just inquire, because the Prophet doesn't know, right? He hasn't had any revelation yet or any sort of guidance. So he's trying to find out for himself what the situation is. And this is once again a beauty. The Prophet didn't go to her directly and say, what have you done? Have you done? No, rather he wanted to verify without having to get into an argument and hurting her feelings, right? And so he calls different companions that know her, who are related to her, and he asks her. And we'll finish on this one, and this is quite beautiful and funny. He calls a lady called Basriya, and she is the freed slave of Aisha. Aisha brought her to free her, and this was an act of charity. So she has a lot of love, this Basriya, for Aisha radiallahu anha. And the Prophet goes, tell me about her. Do you have any doubt in her character? Do you think she could do such a thing? And then she's a bit nervous because she has one thing, right? But look at what the thing is. She goes, by Allah, O Messenger of Allah, I have not seen anything from her, but there's something that she used to do. And the Prophet goes, what is it? Or you asked her for the answer. And she goes, she was supposed to knead the dough, but she would fall asleep, and then the goats would come and eat the dough. Yeah, that's the only bad thing I can come up with, Aisha radiallahu anha. Yeah. Now look at us, right? Our wives don't make rotiyan or they don't cook dinner. Game over, right? But look, the Prophet's wife is falling asleep. She's meant to make roti technically, knead the dough, but she's falling asleep. But and the goats will come and eat the dough. That's the worst thing that she's done, right? Allah increase her in her rank. And so the Prophet realizes no one's got anything bad to say about her, right? And inshallah next time, we'll leave it at cliffhanger. The Prophet then approaches her in the house, and then the conversation starts. And inshallah we'll talk about the revelation that comes in defense of Aisha radiallahu anha. And inshallah with that we'll end. Subhanallah wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. So inshallah we're going to now go onto the dhikr, inshallah. So the etiquettes of dhikr are, number one, as we've mentioned before, the lights will be turned off, not because we like sitting in the dark, but just to focus, right? That we don't need to be shy about people around us. We can sing the praises of Allah loudly and say the praises of Allah loudly. And number two, rectify your intentions, that you're here for the sake of Allah and that you're not doing it for any other reason. And number three, any other thoughts, your phones, turn it off, right? Just close it so you can just focus. It's 10 minutes, right? 10-minute quality dhikr is better than hours of heedless dhikr, inshallah. So we'll close the lights and we'll play a recording, and then we'll do that, inshallah. Bismillah.
إلا الله
إلا الله لا مقصود إلا الله لا مقصود إلا الله لا مقصود إلا الله 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 حفيظ ناصر الله لا إله إلا الله حفيظ ناصر الله لا إله إلا الله لا مسجود إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا مسجود إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 أنت المولى أنت الحق ليس المولى إلا هو أنت المولى أنت الحق ليس المولى إلا هو الله 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 حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله نور محمد صلى الله لا إله إلا الله نور محمد صلى الله لا إله إلا الله 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 ليس الهادي إلا هو أنت الهادي أنت الحق ليس الهادي إلا هو لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا مسجود إلا الله لا مسجود إلا الله لا مسجود إلا الله لا مسجود إلا الله 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 أنت الناصر أنت الحق ليس الناصر إلا هو أنت الناصر أنت الحق ليس الناصر إلا هو لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم ثبت قلبي على دينك يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته اللهم عافني في بدننا اللهم عافني في سمعنا اللهم عافني في بصرنا لا إله إلا أنت لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين يا رب العالمين accept this gathering forgive us for our sins Ya Allah the sins that we've done in private or in public Ya Allah forgive them Ya Allah increase us in the rank and closeness to your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, bless the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, increase him in his rank. Ya Allah, allow us to meet him in the grave. Allow us to meet him in Yawm al-Qiyamah and be close to him in paradise. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ya Allah, allow us to be sincere in what we do and what we say. Ya Allah, make us people of action and people of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Ya Allah, when we pass away, allow us to die with La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah on our lips. Ya Allah, bless our children, our parents. Ya Allah, any of our family members or friends are ill or having any financial problems, any mental problems, any family problems, anything, Ya Rabbil Alameen, we ask that you alleviate it, Ya Allah, with your grace and your mercy. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين